Well, hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome. Welcome to another fine Thursday stream, and not Pokemon yet. Pokemon later, probably. I hope you're all having a fine day. I thought that maybe before we get back to becoming incredibly good at Pokemon, the best that ever was, I think first, as a warm-up real quick, let's just figure out the 100 greatest games of all time. Solve that once and for all, and then we'll be ready. Who's feeling ready to solve greatest games of all time? So many have tried and failed before us, but I think we can knock this out pretty quick. That's actually not quite what we're doing. We'll actually be looking over an existing 100 greatest games of all time list and just sort of talking about it, because that's really what these lists are for at the end of the day. An excuse to talk about games we like and try to kind of establish our opinion around a canon. We'll get to that in a few, though. Welcome, though, all of you. Thank you for the 24 months, Absolune. 2 years, I know. It's very strange. Thank you for 24 months, Lord Trident. And 22 months, Stalactahedron. And 24 months, Barrel of Games. You're already incredibly good at Pokemon. Don't be like that. I'm okay. I'm doing pretty good for one who doesn't, have a lot of built-up knowledge around type matchups and what all the Pokemon are, and etc. I'm okay. Getting better. I feel like I'll be able to say I'm pretty decent at Pokemon by the end of all these. But yeah, before we get to that, I'd stumbled upon a 100 greatest games list that was kind of particularly interesting, and I thought that it'd be fun to kind of go through it and discuss. I'm not all that interested in making my own, if I'm honest. I don't find, I find there's two ways you can go about it. You can just try to throw together a list of your 100 favorite games, which is, easier, but also feels kind of that's only for you, really. It's it's a fine thing to do to entertain yourself, but that there's limited value to anyone else. Or trying to actually put together a proper, more objective, canon, the 100 greatest games, which is just daunting and also impossible. So I'm not super eager to get out there and put out my own list. That I don't think anyone needs that, really. But this one I found interesting because there's different ways you can go about making this kind of list, right? An individual can create one, and that's inherently going to be somewhat limited by their own biases and also experience. No one's played everything. No one has perfect knowledge of this stuff. But thank you for the bits, Ramnon. I could offer up some top 100 gaming puns. Chat might not like it, and it would be a sad thing to fall out for. It's 1 down, 99 to go, I guess. But thank you. But yeah, the other way to generate a list is by sort of sort of popular public poll, right? Like a subreddit, kind of everyone surveying and voting for all right, generating the top 100 games that way, or the way IMDb generates those top 100 lists based on the user review ratings of all the movies in the entire site. And that solves for the personal biases problem, but you still kind of have the communal bias of whatever group is being polled. And also, when you do that, it's not really a greatest list so much as a most popular list at that point, because that kind of voting favors games which have widespread appeal, which are going to appeal, may not be the best games ever, but they're pretty good games that a wide range of people enjoy. It's kind of in the same way that as a Rotten Tomatoes score is not really a judgment of the quality of a film so much as the film's how broad the film's appeal is, right? So like most of the, like, if there's any top 100 list that has value, I think it's like your best bets are probably the ones that are generated by like, that like historically get generated by various like game journalism sites where like the staff of that site kind of like works together and talks and discusses and pulls together a list themselves, which like, it's not like that is like impossible to go wrong either, but like it's a group of people who have some level of expertise, knowledge, have experienced a wide range of games, like bringing a variety of perspectives and experiences and coordinating with each other to generate a list that they all kind of agree on. Like that seems like, it's not like there's a scientifically perfect way to do this, but that's probably going to generate like the most interesting and I think like most coherent kind of list. And that's not really what this is even. This is like a weird hybrid between that and the public opinion one. So this is the list we're going to be looking at here. I'll switch this over. The list we're going to be looking at here is one on gqmagazine.com of all things. That was generated by, or it was created by basically the staff at GQ reaching out to like 200 people within like game development and gaming, kind of like the gaming culture sphere. So like you have big streamers like Ninja and a bunch of others, but you've also got like YouTube creators like Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit or Chris Bratt from People Make Games. You've got, but also like they reached out to a wide range of game journalists, Chris Plants, Lee Alexander, Luke Plunkett, Brian Crescente, just like a lot of big names, and also tons of game developers themselves, like Tim Schafer and Alana Pierce and that's like 200 something people. They got a full list at the bottom of the thing. And that's like an interesting way to do it. It's still kind of a popular vote poll type thing in that, like, I think the way that they pulled the ranking together was essentially having all those people come up with their own top 10 list, and then they would kind of take that big pile of top 10 lists of their personal top 10s and kind of use that to sort of like generate a scoring system for how frequently games appeared on, or how many people's lists a game appeared on, how highly it was ranked, stuff like that. And so I don't think that this is a perfect list by any means, but it's a really interesting approach, and it is a pretty decent list, I think. Like, I don't know, it's whatever. They're fun to talk about. Thought it could be fun to talk about, to like go through this kind of list and try to, yeah, like it is kind of impossible to try to make an objective ranking about subjective qualities, because like even if you're trying to take that approach, there's so many different criteria you can use. Are you judging this purely on like how well the given game like holds up as a play experience now, or are you judging based on historical significance? Are you judging on like a criteria of how big and popular and influential the game was? Like there's just so many different ways that you can, like, there are so many different criteria you can take that would qualify or disqualify various games very easily. Like, there's no objective way to do this, but like, as always, these lists are really just an excuse to talk about games we like and generate some discussion. And that has its own value, I think. You agree pretty closely with the Metacritic top critically rated of all time? That could be another interesting one to look at as well at some point. Because like Metacritic top rated is an interesting, like, assuming that they're going with kind of like the critic review scores. That still is a little bit like Metacritic kind of runs into the same thing as Rotten Tomatoes, where it favors games with the broadest appeal and the broadest reach, like the biggest marketing, the most well-known stuff, more than necessarily like best or quality or best, like most influential. But like that's also like a really good, I'd be curious to look through that list. I think that has kind of potential as well. We're doing a tier list stream. Not really this time, although I would definitely love to do another tier list stream at some point. Those are very fun. I feel like Dan and I still need to do a tier list stream at some point. Just got to figure out what of. But yeah, there's definitely some entries on this list that I don't agree with. I think that the list, and like, it makes sense that this is the result of polling like 200 different people's, like, and having them give you their top 10 list and generating a best 100 games list from that. Like, there are franchises which have too many entries on this list, I think, that, like, more than they should. More than I think if this was just like the GQ staff putting the list together themselves, I don't think they'd probably look at the list and see, like, okay, this franchise has 4 entries in here. We should probably pare that down to just 2. And there are some notable absences as well. Whatever. We'll go through the list and see. I think it'll be kind of fun. Thank you for the 6 months, by the way. Catafree 10. Has it truly been this long since the Pokemon journey started? Maybe no Pokemon today, but this looks cool to be cool to look at nonetheless. And hopefully we will get to Pokemon after. I don't want to spend forever on this because I don't know how interesting it will remain. But thank you also for the 23 months, Walu. And good morning to you as well. It's also worth mentioning that this list was published in mid-2023, so that there are some more recent releases that I would not like. If this list was being generated now, I would imagine I wouldn't be surprised to see Baldur's Gate 3 on there, or Tears of the Kingdom, or Balatro, or some of those other like really big ones from great ones from last year. But those had either not come out yet or just come out when this was published. So I don't think I don't think that all of these, any list like this, ages out of relevance almost immediately. So it goes. Thank you for the 24 months, Moon Decay. It'll be fun to talk about, though. And, like, I've played a lot of games, but there are definitely a few on here, especially some of the older PC ones that I missed just not growing up in a PC gaming household. So, anyway, let us begin to peruse this here list. Entry number 100. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I don't know if that, like, this is not one that I know that I would put in one of my, like, top 100s necessarily, but I don't hate it as an entry. Like, it's one of the first Star Wars games to actually do interesting things with the IP. Solid, like, RPG, and also, like, an important step on the road that led us from, like, the earliest CRPGs to Baldur's Gate 3 coming out last year, right? Like Knights of the Old Republic is clunky, and I think a lot of games that have come out, like, a lot of its successors in this genre far, far surpass it, but an important one, though. Probably wouldn't make my top 100 list, but I'm not mad at this. Let's see. 99, Rez. This is a quality pick. I'm glad this one made it on the list. Rez is good. I'm glad. Rez is also much more widely available now. There's like a re-release on like modern consoles and PC and stuff like that. It's interesting for the many who haven't played it, and that's understandable because it came out a good while ago. It was kind of a cult classic hit for a good while. It's like a rhythm rail shooter, and it's really cool. Like, it's a neat thing. It's a neat pick. It really, like, whether it belongs on one top 100 list kind of depends on your criteria, I think, because I think there's a lot, like, I don't know if it's like one of the greatest games of all time necessarily, but it is like a really original, neat one. Like, it's a unique and cool one. There's nothing quite like it. This is one of my blind spots here. Like, Age of Empires is just one of those that I've barely touched. So, all right, and chat, any older older PC fans who like Age of Empires, does this one make a lot of sense? And does of the Age of Empires games, is this the one that should be here? I'm seeing confirmation that yep, this is correct. Okay, good. I'm seeing lots of agreement. Return of the Obra Dinn, absolutely. Honestly, I feel like this should be higher. But that it is on the list at all is, like, unquestionable. Really, like, there are so many games and so many great games that, like, there will be some games that I wish were higher, that I think should be higher on the list, but, like, so long as you're on the list, that's kind of the important thing, right? Like, this is an incredibly well-made video game. But let's see. Next would be Super Mario Brothers. I think that fits, and honestly, I kind of like it not being up near the top. Like, because I think Super Mario Brothers is incredibly important historically, but I feel like I roll my eyes anytime I see one of these top 10 lists that has Super Mario Brothers in, like, the top 3, because, like, or it's like, yes, it is very important, but I want a more interesting answer. And also, like, this is an important game. There are a lot of better games than this. Being on the list makes sense, though. All right. This is another, again, like, I feel like it's in the, like, bottom 10, bottom 20 on this list. There's, like, a handful of old PC games that are historically important, but that are not on my radar. Ultima Underworld is not on my radar. I'm deferring to chat again on this one. Ultima Underworld's basically the forerunner of the immersive sim. I see, okay. Another sort of like historical significance one. Historically important, in the same way as like Super Mario Brothers being on the list. Okay. I'll allow it. All right. 94, Okami. This one's interesting because I love the art of Okami. Like, I love how it looks. I'm so happy it exists. I don't know if it belongs in the top 100 games of all time list, though. As a game, I actually think Okami's kind of just okay. Like, I love that it exists, and I love that it is... I love the creativity. I love the uniqueness of it. Like, I love how much it stands out from, like, amongst amongst the rest of the video game scene, especially in its time. I don't know if it really belongs on a top 100 of all time list, though. I don't hate it as a pick, but it's like, it's sort of one where I'd be like, like, I love it. I don't know if I could justify putting it here. In the same way as, like, I love me some Kingdom Hearts, but I don't know if I'd go so far as to put a Kingdom Hearts in the top 100 games of all time list. You know? Still. Fable 2, I feel like I'd also allow. Probably another one I wouldn't put on my list, but I'll allow that one. That, especially kind of in the, like, down in the 90s area down here. This... Like, Fable was a really, like, really odd duck in sort of like that action RPG, like, role-playing game sort of era. But it was a neat, like, it was a neat one, though. And yeah, like, if you're going to put a Fable game, this is the one. 92, Mass Effect. This I will also allow. This is acceptable. Like, Mass Effect original is clunky, but it's also, like... is a real good sweet spot for, like, BioWare RPG. There's a handful of games in this sort of, like, modern RPG, big budget genre that I think... if this list was released a year later, Baldur's Gate 3 would be on here, and probably one of these would get bumped off. And I don't know whether I would choose to bump Mass Effect or Knights of the Old Republic, but I do definitely think Mass Effect 2 is better. Not in every single way. I think there are some strengths Mass Effect has that Mass Effect 2 lacks a little bit, but I definitely prefer Mass Effect 2 myself. Now, let's see. 91, Grand Theft Auto 4. I don't think this belongs here. I do think a Grand Theft Auto belongs in this list, absolutely. 4 is not the one. If a Grand Theft Auto belongs on the list, and 1 does, I think. At least 1. 4 ain't it. It's not like 4 is bad or anything. It's just... there are entries in franchises that are very good, but that are not the best of the list or the most significant or important. And, like, yeah, like, there are so many other GTAs that are better picks for this than 4. I would say. And yeah, y'all are listing all of them. Like, 3, Vice City, 5, San Andreas, I think also, like, is a good contender. Really, any of them, any of them after 3, like, 3, after 3, except for 4, I feel like is the pick. But fair enough. Super Mario Kart, I think, is actually a good fit. Like, there's far better Mario Karts than the original one, but, like, this is the one that kind of launched them all, and it's still, like, such a strong start that I think, yeah, this fits. This feels right. I agree with this. Hitman World of Assassination? Absolutely. Yeah, this is, yes. This is a good pick. How old is this list? This list came out about a year ago. It was like May of 2023. So it is not brand new, but it is fairly recent still. I don't think there are going to be too many, like... I don't think the list would look super different if it came out this year. There'd be a few games added to it, like Baldur's Gate 3, I'm sure, maybe Balatro, maybe Tears of the Kingdom, but it's not too old. But yeah, this, I think, unquestionably belongs. Hitman World of Assassination is pretty phenomenal. Like, or World of Assassination is basically all the contents of Hitman 1, 2, and 3 that have come out kind of over the last decade, all of which were great to begin with and just kept on kind of like cumulatively becoming better with each new release. It's phenomenal. Let's see. The Last Guardian. Now, this is another one that weirdly I've just never quite gotten around to. It's like been on my to-do list for ages and never quite got to it. I'm sure it'll end up on Playframe someday as a result. But I don't think I will complain about seeing any of these, like, this creator's games here. Super Mario Odyssey? Yes, I think, like, there's a lot of Mario games you could pick. And of all the Mario games, I think this is, like, if you can only choose 3 Mario games to put in this list, then I think Odyssey being one of them makes a lot of sense. It is incredibly good. Fine pick. Civ 5, also good. Like, a Civilization definitely belongs on here. I don't know which, like, I've only put in... I feel like I fell the deepest into Civ 5 probably of all of them. I've played like a little 4, a little 6, but it's like, I don't feel like I have enough knowledge to say which Civilization is the one that deserves the spot, but a Civilization definitely belongs here. I feel like 5, like, I certainly enjoyed a great deal of 5. I have no problem with 5 being here. All right, next we have Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. I'm also not mad about that. Like, I don't think I'd be mad if it was absent, but it is an increasingly very good MMO. So yeah, I think, like, I'll allow this. I think as MMO games, like, as MMOs go, that could belong on a best of all time list. I think this is a good contender. Shenmue, or I don't know for sure. Pronunciation is up for debate, but I think one could also debate whether this belongs here. It's a tricky, call, because I think, like, other games have done what Shenmue did better since. I feel like you could probably argue that, like, there's a lot of Shenmue DNA in the Yakuza Like a Dragon series, right? And that I think that all of those are probably better. But, like, that a game came out and did something like that so far back. Like, it is kind of like one of those interesting cases where, like, it didn't do anything incredibly well, but the things it was doing were so unusual and odd and unique, and were, like, the sort of thing that were, like, cool ideas that other games have done better later. Like, I don't know if that really if it belongs on this list for that significance, but it's... Yeah, I don't know if this necessarily belongs on it, but, like, I accept it. This I do not. This, like, there is a lot that is very cool and great about BioShock Infinite, but this one does not belong here. Like, I personally, like, I'm of the opinion that a lot of people are like, too hasty to just, like, trash this entire game as a whole for, like, to just kind of throw the entire game out for some of the things that it does poorly. And in fairness, it does some things so very poorly. There's a lot of things that are really cool and special about the game as well. It's still not enough to make it belong in this list, though. Dragon Age Origins. I feel like the fact that we're up to only 82 and we've already had 3 BioWare RPGs, like, there's the question. If we had to throw one of these out, which one would it be? Because I'm not sure which. Origins is very good. Like, I like Mass Effect more than Dragon Age. Knights of the Old Republic was like... Knights of the Old Republic is the foundation that both of them are built on. It's not easy to pick which to narrow down, but yeah, this is the sort of thing I was talking about, where I feel like this list does have a few too many redundant entries, considering how many other good things are, like, how many other greats, deserving greats, are absent. I don't know if I'd put Origins in a top 100, but I would put it in a top 100 sooner than I'd put the other two. For whatever that's worth. This one actually, I think feels right as well. Like, Fortnite is way too significant to ignore. And, like, I feel like ignoring Fortnite in this kind of list would be incorrect to do. And I think that, like, this feels right. I agree. I also agree with this. Firewatch is a great entry to have on here. There's probably, like, I feel like there's other similar, like, narrative type games that could probably swap into this same slot and be equally deserving, but I think Firewatch is a good pick. Among Us should be on here by that metric. Honestly, I think Among Us should be on here. I don't know if it is. I don't think it is, but Among Us should be on here. What else we got? Tetris Effect. Yes. Yes. Agreed. Tetris Effect being on a top 100 is a very good call. Yeah, like, if a Tetris isn't on the list, then something's wrong. And this is a good pick for a Tetris. If you've never played a Tetris and you're just looking for a place to jump in, this is an excellent pick. What else we got? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2? I'd allow that. I feel like it feels like something that represents that kind of genre of sort of like very video gamey sports kind of thing should be here. And I think like that feels right, I think. This feels like the right pick. I like this choice. Secret of Monkey Island? Yeah, I'd like, for significance, if nothing else, I feel like. Yeah. I think that's a fine pick. Pokemon Gold and Silver. Ooh, yeah, no, like that. That's an so this is an interesting case. Like if what Pokemon belongs on the top 100 list? Because one of them definitely does. Like, one Pokemon at least should be on the list. And Gold and Silver is, I think, a pretty good choice. Like, if you're going for historical significance, then Red and Blue is the one. But, like, Gold and Silver is just kind of like a improvement in most ways upon it. Like, I feel this feels like a fine pick. It is fun. Yeah, no, they did definitely use a screen grab from Crystal, which is fun. Like, that's not the only time we will have an entry on this list that uses a screenshot from a different video game. You'll know it when you see it. But yeah, no, like, a Pokemon belongs on this list, no question. Metroid Prime? Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. I think I agree. Like, there's better Metroidvanias. All right. I could also, like, if this didn't show up on the list anywhere, I wouldn't be mad either. But like, I can see the reasoning on that one. Undertale, yeah, like no question. Honestly, a little surprised it's not higher. But yeah, like, Undertale belongs here. It's a great game on its own and really creative and funny and delightful, and like, goodness, the influence this game has already had and is going to keep having for the next couple decades at least is going to be long lasting. Like, like, this is going to be influencing indie game releases for a very long time. And in a good way. Like, in a lot of largely good ways, too, I think. What else we got? Final Fantasy VI. I would not put this here. I don't think... Of all the Final Fantasies, I don't think 6 is one that I would choose to put on a top 100 games of all time list. Like, I'll grant you, I think I favor 6 less than the general Final Fantasy fandom. So, like, that's some of my bias there speaking, but, like, I think other Final Fantasy, there's nothing that 6 does that I don't think other Final Fantasies do better, and I don't think that there is any special historical influence or significance to 6 that merits 100 games of all time status. This list has too many Final Fantasies on it, to be honest. Like, this list has too many Marios, too many Final Fantasies, too many of a couple other, like, general franchises as well. And I think this is one of the Final Fantasies I'd drop. Yakuza 0? Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like a Yakuza belongs in here. I don't know which is the best one to go with, but this seems fine to me. Exactly, Snow Wraith. Yeah, like, this is what happens when you ask 200 people to give you their top 10 list of, like, greatest and favorite games. You're gonna get a lot of popular franchises popping up. That's kind of like one of the flaws with this, well, flaws, quote unquote, with this method. Anyway, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Yeah, I think, like, if a Call of Duty belongs on here, this is definitely the one. Like, in terms of just the historical significance and influence. That's the one to pick. Left 4 Dead 2? Yeah, no, I think that's also a very good pick. Feels right having that on here somewhere. Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask at 69? Yeah, like, I think of all the Zeldas, I think Majora's Mask is a reasonable pick. Oh goodness, this was like a half hour ago and I missed it. Moon Decay, thank you for the 24 months. Also, Catafree 10. I can't remember if I thanked you or not, but thank you for the 6 months. I think I did, but just in case. But yeah, Majora's Mask works for me. Thief: The Dark Project. Here's another one. The Thief series is also one, again, early PC gaming that I was not in a position to play, enjoy, or appreciate in its time. It, like, Thief fans in chat, is this the right pick for Thief? Because, like, from what I've heard of Thief, it makes a lot of sense as a, like, influential, as an influential game. Is this the right one to pick, though? You'd have picked Thief 2? From what I've heard others say of it, it definitely makes sense to me having a Thief game on here somewhere for the historical significance, if nothing else. Yeah, I definitely do agree. There are quite a few games on this list that are important and influential, but not like the most fun to play, or like haven't aged the best, which is like, that is always tricky. You kind of have to pick one way or another for like your criteria for top 100 games. But that, like, I guess there's the, like, that is a top 100 games list that is half full of games that most anyone wouldn't really want to go back and play today, instead of choosing something else or more recent. Like, there is value in the historical significance, but also, like, maybe there's also value in the games 100 games that you would absolutely sit down and play right now because of how darn good they are. Yeah, I do kind of feel like this list kind of is trying to hit somewhere in the middle, or the list is, I think, inevitably hitting somewhere in the middle because it is polling 200 people to give their top 10, and those 200 people are coming in with different criteria. So we're getting a bit of a mishmash. Anyway, Wind Waker? Yeah, okay. I'm torn. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, if we could only have 3 Zeldas on the list, and we've already had 2 now, Majora's Mask and Wind Waker. I don't know. Like, like, aesthetically, I adore Wind Waker. It might be my favorite of the whole series. Like, by the end of this, it's definitely going to feel like at least 1 or 2 Zeldas should probably be dropped, and it's hard picking which ones, though. Anyway, Fallout New Vegas, yes. That's correct. Like, if we're going to be having as many of the BioWare role-playing games on here, like the Mass Effects and the Dragon Ages and things like that, like, you'd better have New Vegas in here. It deserves the spot. GoldenEye. I'm of 2 minds on GoldenEye being here. Like, it was very popular. I spent many, many, many hours playing it with, like, it is a cherished memory. I don't think it's necessarily because it's an incredible game. I guess, like, it's in sort of the same way as, like, there are some games that just, like, them being kind of like a big moment and having, like, a big moment of popularity. Like, that has some value as well, but a lot of games have had that, and, like, it's not like GoldenEye had a Fortnite level of moment or anything. Like, I have many, many fond memories of GoldenEye. I don't think it really belongs on a top 100 games of all time list, though. This feels like nostalgia talking. And nostalgia has value, but, like, even so. Persona 5? Sure. I feel like a Persona should be on here for sure, and and 5 is as good as any, I feel like. Like, there's aspects of 4 I like better, but 5, in terms of, like, play, has a lot of play improvements, I think, so I'm fine with this. The Sims 2? Yeah, like, goodness, one of the Sims should be here. One of the Sims has to be on here. I've not put in enough of the time on the Sims franchise to have a strong opinion on which one is the best of them, but the Sims game must be here. Like, I've had the most fun with probably 4, maybe a bit of 3, like 3 or 4 myself, but I feel like 2 is, even I probably feel like 2 is probably the better one. Let's see. Castlevania Symphony of the Night? Sure, yeah. I mean, goodness, in terms of, like, influence, it's been influential. I feel like you can find better Metroidvanias now, but yeah, this feels right. This feels like this is paying proper respects. It is still a really gorgeous looking game. It has aged quite well, Symphony of the Night. Grand Theft Auto 3. See, this is a Grand Theft Auto pick that makes sense. Because goodness, the influence this game has had. Like, it's not the Grand Theft Auto that I would necessarily choose to go and play now. I don't even know which one I would choose to go and play now, but my goodness, the like the influence this one had. What else we got? Super Metroid? Yeah. Good. Yeah. Like in the same way as Symphony of the Night should be here, Super Metroid must absolutely be here. Still very, very, very good quality game. Thank you for the 18 months, Caliguru. A little upset Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night didn't share a spot. I like better that there is a buffer between them, because if you put them right next to each other, then it makes it feel even more like you're ranking them against each other and which one's better. Having a nice buffer in between maintains a kind of neutrality that I like. Again, this is a list that is not like handcrafted by an individual or a small group. It is kind of the culmination of submitted votes from 200 admittedly like good, like knowledgeable games people, but like it is even so. Which would I put above the other between Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night? Super Metroid, I think. I probably need to play Symphony of the Night again. It's been a little while. I feel like Super Metroid's a little tighter, but it's honestly they're both so good, and it's like. And I feel like if I played Symphony of the Night, if I play them back to back, I have a suspicion I'd feel like these are both too good. I don't know if I could pick a favorite from these. They're just different, like two different approaches to this like genre idea. And there are newer Metroid, like I would choose Hollow Knight over either of them in a heartbeat. But let's see. Yeah, they both deserve a spot, though. I don't think Fallout 3 does. Like, New Vegas being here, yes. And I like Fallout 3 and New Vegas are valuing different things, and I think like there is a lot about 3. There's a lot about the Bethesda version of a Fallout that is appealing, even if it is absolutely not the core that made Fallout not the core, like even if it is not staying true to the ethos and the sort of design and the approach of Fallout as a franchise narratively, like the big world to explore and find stuff and scrounge and all that, like the stuff that makes Elder Scrolls games fun, like there's a lot of appeal to that. I think there are better Bethesda games to go on this list than a Fallout 3. And I do think New Vegas should be higher than 3. Yeah, 3 being higher than New Vegas does not feel correct to me. This one was a really big hit, though, and it did, like, this is the one that made, like, the reason Fallout is a big deal now, the reason we have a New Vegas, and the reason we have a TV series and all this other stuff now is because Fallout was a very niche thing before 3. Anyway, this doesn't belong here either. Not because I don't like it, but just because if you're going to pick an Elder Scrolls, I don't know why you pick this one. Again, not because there's not even anything wrong with Oblivion. I like Oblivion, but there's nothing that it does that Morrowind didn't do earlier or Skyrim didn't do the same or better. I put a lot of time into this game. I loved it. I love it too. I don't think it belongs in a 100 game like best of all time list though. See, now this is a Final Fantasy I'm happy letting like keep here. I think this is a fine pick for a like if a Final Fantasy is going to make it in the top 100. I think that this works. This works for me. Is a good one. There's a lot of games that aren't on this list that I would. There's a lot of games that aren't on this list that I would be willing to bump Final Fantasy IX off the list completely to make room for, that I think are more important and better games. But like, I'm glad this is here. I like this one. I'm good with this one too. Inside being on here. That works for me. Another influential one. It's a little high. I'd probably put this much, much lower on the list if it's going to make it on here. But yeah, like this is a pretty significant indie release. And it's like really well made all around. A little bit high, though. I can't imagine anyone is going to argue that Inside's a better game than 9. I think you could make an argument, actually, that Inside's a better game than 9 in various ways. Like, they're very, very different games. But I actually think there's a lot of people who would argue that Inside's a much better game than 9. I think that kind of comes down to taste and what you value in a game at that point. Has Papers, Please or Braid appeared on the list so far? They've not. And I do think, like, if we're talking indie significance and like quality, like, yeah, I think both of those should be here sooner than Inside, probably. Hollow Knight definitely belongs here, and see if you can note the slight editorial mistake happening on screen. Slight one. I'm noticing one specific issue. And this one just stings a little extra. It's funny, though. And it belongs on the list. Good gracious. Hollow Knight's, like, top-tier Metroidvania. Like, yeah, like, Hollow Knight belongs here. For sure. Stealth Silk Song announcement. Anyway. Yeah. Ico or Eco. Yeah, definitely. I think this belongs here. I don't think it is as good as a way it is later as Shadow of the Colossus, but like still such a cool and like this feels like it belongs here. Like the things that would make me consider putting Okami on the list, despite not being kind of a mediocre game in a lot of ways, like is the same sort of stuff that makes me think Ico should definitely be here. Like aesthetic, like unique aesthetic, really cool vibes, but also just like a really unique game, just a really unique game executed really well. Like this definitely feels like it belongs here. Let's see, Dishonored 2? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't know if I'd have put it here, but I'm okay with that. It definitely feels like immersive sims need, like, there need to be some spots for immersive sims in here. I don't know if this is the one that I would pick, but I'm down with that. Yeah, maybe a little higher on the list than I would put it, but I accept this. Like I would personally, I think my pick, I would put like Prey in 2017 instead, if we're going with arcane games, but I'm good with this. And yeah, the art design in Dishonored is so good. Arcane's is so good. I'm sad that Arcane Austin is closed down. Actually, I'm not even sad. I'm mad that Arcane Austin is closed down. That is heartbreaking. Let's see. Half-Life. Yep, that belongs here. That like historical significance on Half-Life is big. Half-Life good. And Half-Life important, even more so. Final Fantasy X. This one, I don't... Like, I don't think this belongs here either. Like, I love 10 so much more than I love Final Fantasy VI. And I love it about as much as I love Final Fantasy IX. I don't know if it really belongs here, though. There's too many Final Fantasies in here already. We've already had 4. We've had 14, which I think that's reasonable. I'll allow that. 6, which I don't think so. 9, which, okay, yeah, sure. And 10, which I don't think so, man. Like, there's a lot of very good and important video games. And I don't think 10 quite belongs here on the list. As much as I adore it. Spelunky, yes, like this belongs here. I don't even like Spelunky very much, but this absolutely belongs on this list, no question. Like, this is correct. This is also correct. Stardew Valley definitely belongs on a top 100 list. Final Fantasy VI made 7 possible. Not really. Like, no more than Final Fantasy 1 did. Like, really, like, you can kind of say the same for most any franchise. Like, the predecessor to a game, like, leads to the possible existence of a sequel. That doesn't really give it... That... Whatever significance that gives it doesn't necessarily equate to the kind of significance that I think makes you one of the greatest 100 games of all time, though. I don't think that that's, like, a useful, like, criteria. In my opinion. But yeah, Stardew Valley being here, like, I think, I agree. Grand Theft Auto 5 being here, this I would also, like, accept. As a, we should not have Grand Theft Autos 3, 4, and 5 here. But 3 and 5, I can work with that. Like, that 5 is better than 4 and also more important than 4. Like, Grand Theft Auto 5 is so huge, and Grand Theft Auto Online, which is like part of Grand Theft Auto 5, is still huge and has been played for well over a decade and is enormous. Like, the like popularity and success of this game is gigantic. Like, so yeah, I think like 3 and 5 feel like the Grand Theft Autos that make sense to be here. 4, not so sure about that one. God of War 2018? Yeah, I'd be fine leaving this off, and it's maybe a little high, but I think that this is, like, I'm down with this. It is very good. Destiny. Yeah. No, actually, I allow that too. Again, a little high, but I think cumulatively, like, Destiny and Destiny 2 and kind of all that it's been, like, is a very, like, impressive, like, online shooter MMO type thing. Like, Destiny has a lot of weirdness and kind of like issues, especially the longer it's gone on. Like, trying to dive into Destiny 2 now is like a user experience nightmare. But like, I do not know if any studio in the world is as good at making first-person shooters that work on a controller like feel as polished and as good as Bungie. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever done it as well as they have. Like, the polish level on Bungie shooters that like work on a console and a controller is like chef kiss phenomenal. The running and gunning and shooting stuff in Destiny feels amazing. Like I feel like it's too high on the list, but I'm down with this. I'm not down with this. I do feel like a Halo should be here. I think it should be the first like Halo. I don't. If anyone wants to try to pitch me on why Halo 3 belongs here. Not that Halo 3 is bad, but like greatest 100 games of all time though. Halo 3 multiplayer good for sure, but like Halo 2 kind of like blew that up first. Like Halo 1 was huge for like the local multiplayer sort of thing, and then Halo 2 doing online multiplayer blew up enormously, and then 3 kept going. Like Halo 1 and 2 I could see. Halo 3 I am like I'm less convinced on that one. Because the guys who made this list are mid-30s dudes. Not all, like, no, there's a pretty wide range of people and from a lot of different sectors of like the game industry and like surrounding area. Like it's a pretty wide range of folks and a pretty wide range of ages as well. Granted, like there's a lot of people like getting in their top 10 who I'm sure also like, I'm sure plenty of them also look at this list and are like, I don't agree with what the rest of my peers cumulatively all put here, but that's kind of the danger of, that's what happens with best lists that are done by sort of public or large group poll and survey. It skews towards the most popular and most widespread appeal rather than best necessarily. Let's see. Morrowind. See this? If an Elder Scrolls is going to be here, I think Morrowind or Skyrim is the right pick. And there is a lot about Morrowind that is cool and good that later Elder Scrolls doesn't like kind of moved away from. Let's see here. Nier Automata? I'm fine with that, sure. Yeah, like... Yeah, actually, I am fine with that. For, like, character action RPG type stuff, like, it's hard to find, like, an action RPG with a character who, like, handles this well. I'm fine with this being here. And like Nier games are just so fascinating. Even like they swing for the fences on so many big things and they don't always land, but that they're always swinging and they're so unique. And yeah, I like this being here. Maybe a little lower than this, but I like it being here. Chrono Trigger, absolutely. Like this is why I also feel like Final Fantasy VI could just be left off. If we've got Chrono Trigger here, and Chrono Trigger is better than Final Fantasy VI in most ways. Like, I'd honestly put this higher, but again, this is here by group, kind of like submission voting type thing. So it's not. I imagine lots of them would put it higher too, but Chrono Trigger belongs here, no question. The Sims, yeah, no, I don't know if we need both The Sims and The Sims 2 here, but yes, The Sims as a franchise belongs here. I don't think Super Mario Galaxy does. Galaxy is great. Like, Super Mario Galaxy is great, But of all of the many, many very good Mario games, I don't think Galaxy should be the one that's here. Like there's like there should definitely be at least 3 Mario games on this list. Like that makes a lot of sense. If we're paying tribute to historical significance, then yeah, original Mario Brothers, you got to put it on the list. Mario Odyssey being on here, definitely. Odyssey is a much better, I think Odyssey is a much better game than Galaxy ultimately, even though Galaxy is, again, very good and very creative and inventive, and I love it. But if we got to drop a Mario game, I feel like this is the one that I would quite comfortably drop. What remains of Edith Finch? No, I never did get around to playing this one. I'm curious. I feel like this is the sort of one that could, like, this one and Firewatch could maybe be competing for a sort of spot. I'm curious if anyone in chat has strong feelings on this one. Because I remember a lot of people talking about like it generating like a lot of interesting conversation and folks like really liking what it was doing. Seems sort of like a split opinions in chat as well, which makes sense for this kind of game as well. Yeah. I cannot give much opinion on this, having not really played it, but given the contentiousness of this one, even more than like the discussion chat was having around Firewatch, I feel like maybe this one just might be a little high, but yeah, Hades being here yes, Hades should be here. Hades should be here. This is undeniable. And I'm fine with this spot too. Like this spot or higher, I think for Hades is yes. Ooh, Gone Home as a suggestion. Like I could see swapping in Gone Home for Firewatch. Not that I'm like, I think Firewatch might be, I'm on the fence on that one, but I could see Gone Home being swapped in for either Firewatch or Edith Finch, and I feel like I'd accept that. It would be it would be interesting trying to assemble our own top 100 lists, because like we've between me and the folks who would watch me, we've definitely got our own biases as well. But like it'd be interesting to see what our little list that we would put together would look like. Let's see here. Silent Hill 2? I feel like for historical significance, yeah, like this is an important one in the horror genre. Like, it is so important and influential that it's one of those that you get tired of hearing about. If a game has reached the point of influence where you're sick of people referencing and bringing it up, then it probably belongs on the list. Let's see. Mario Brothers 3. That's... I'm legit way torn on that, actually. Because I can see the reasoning for it. Yes. And I don't think it's wrong. I don't... Or like, I'm kind of like, all right, we've had several Mario games now. I know one of them that I would definitely drop off the list. Trying to decide if 3's the one to keep or not. Because it is really good, and it's better than Mario 1 in pretty much every way. Not as important as Mario 1, still kind of important though, and oof. Yeah, that one's hard. That one's challenging. I would put World, like, me personally, I think World, if I had to choose between World and 3, I would put World in a heartbeat. Because while 3 is definitely an improvement over the original, I think I favor World far, far more than I do 3. Oof. But yeah, like 3 is also really important, and like for the folks who do like 3 more than World, like I don't agree, but I understand. Where is Monster Hunter is a very, very good question. You're asking the right questions. But we're not through the list yet. We're only at 36. We still got some to go. 35 to be precise. Portal, yeah. Goodness gracious, yes. This is true and correct. Uncharted 2? A little high, but I think if you're going to put in Uncharted, like, then yeah, then 2 is I think is the right call. I think having an Uncharted on the list makes sense. I would put it much lower on the list, but I do think an Uncharted belongs here, and 2 is the right one. Yeah, like I cut GTA 4 and put Uncharted 2 here, and then yeah, that's agreed. Definitely. Let's see, what else? Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater? Yeah. No, I think that's a good pick as well. Again, maybe a little high, but like, if we're putting a Metal Gear on, then yeah, I think 3 is the pick. I feel like Dragon Quest games at least deserve an honorable mention on here for significance. I think I agree, yeah. I think so. Like, a Dragon Quest should definitely take one of these Final Fantasy spots. Like, there are definitely Dragon Quest games that are more significant than Final Fantasy VI. For sure. And definitely more significant than Final Fantasy X. Deus Ex? Yes. Like, yes. Goodness, if we're talking historical significance. Deus Ex must be here. It's like unquestionable. Super important. Like, I didn't even play... The only version of Deus Ex I played was like the crummy PS2 port. But I still know enough about Deus Ex to know this belongs here. Shadow of the Colossus? Yes. Like, unquestionably, yes. This is Ueda's masterpiece. Ueda and Team Ico's masterpiece. I could see it honestly being higher up, but like 31, I'm fine with that. Like, it belongs here and in the top 50, without a doubt. Outer Wilds also, yes. Like, I'm happy seeing some of these that we're seeing now, because there's like some of these, like if Shadow of the Colossus is not on here, if Outer Wilds is not on here, then your top 100 list is invalid, and I'm sorry. This is not up for debate. I'll allow pushback on some of these for sure, but Shadow of the Colossus is masterpiece good. Deus Ex is so darn important. Outer Wilds is unlike anything else. Carrie's been playing a little bit of it herself, and I was like going back through some of my playthrough of some of the videos of that, and I'm just like, I don't think I've ever played anything else like that, and I don't know if I'll ever play anything like... I have not seen another game like Outer Wilds since. It is one of the most memorable, special game experiences I've ever had. It was really, really lovely. think Journey belongs on here. I don't know if I'd put it quite this high, but yeah, I think Journey being here is a good pick. Something from that game company should definitely be here, and I think Journey's the one. Like, Flower is good, Flow is good. Journey's the one, though. We play the DLC. Wait, which one? Which DLC? Yeah, because of the eye? I did that already. I did. It's on the channel. Boy. I have great news for you. I have done it. It rules. Yeah, it's on the channel. It's got its own playlist, and those episodes are added to the Outer Wilds playlist as well. So go have a good time. I certainly did. I can't believe that they managed to add more Outer Wilds to Outer Wilds and it'd be just as good and make the game better, even better. It's so good. Anyway, let's see. This one I'm torn on. It shouldn't be this high. I definitely see an argument for A Last of Us being on the list. I feel like there's aspects of The Last of Us Part 2 that I don't like, but there is legit a lot that is really good and darned impressive about it too, though. Like, I think A Last of Us belongs here. I don't know if I would... I feel like I'd put 1, probably. But I'm not mad about A Last of Us being here, for sure. I feel like I would probably favor 1. I like the relative, like, conciseness of 1 and focus of 1 a bit more than 2, even though, goodness, they're both really impressive. Here we go. Is this the first fighting game on here? I think it is. Like, it's Street Fighter 2 should be here, unquestionably. Feels like we should have had another one, though, at some point, probably. This is also the wrong version of Street, like... Well, like... So the picture is from Super Street Fighter 2, and they've listed Street Fighter 2. Like, Super Street Fighter 2 is better, though, right? Like... I might be wrong, because, again, I'm not the fighting game person. Oh, a proposal for how we make our own top 100. Poll a large number of people to make up a pool of games. After we've correlated a large list, have everyone vote on each game of the list in several categories. Historical significance, cultural significance, popularity, game feel, and then you add up all those scores and rank them there. It's definitely, like, a large process, but it could, like... It would be interesting to see what the results end up being. Yeah, okay, so, like, we still have 26 entries to go, but if another fighting game was going to be on here, what should it be, do we think? A Tekken, a Guilty Gear, Mortal Kombat... Smash. It does feel weird not seeing a Smash Brothers in here. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It does feel like we should have another fighting game on here. Like, we should have seen another fighting game on the way up here to 27 at some point. It's weird this is the first one. I say that as not a fighting game person. Where are they, though? Okay, 26. Link to the Past. I'm okay with that. We've already had too many Zeldas on here. Like, I personally don't favor Link to the Past over a lot of other ones. But, like, Kind of like with Mario 3. It's sort of like all right, I accept this. It's not my favorite, but it's significant and it's influential for sure. Like, in fairness, there's a lot of very, very good Zelda games. But yeah, I don't know if we were having to trim some of the Zeldas off this list, which would be better for the list, I think. Link to the Past might be one of the ones that I was willing to drop. Pokemon Red and Blue. Yeah, like, this should be here. I don't know if we should have both this and Gold and Silver on the list, too. I think it would be better to choose one, but I don't know which of the two I'd choose, though. Like, more significant? Red and Blue for sure. Better of the two? Gold and Silver. One of the two should definitely be here. Like, goodness, if your top 100 list doesn't have a Pokemon on it, then something has gone wrong. We've been streaming for a while. I guess I should restate like what this list is. So this list I'm going through is one that was put together by GQ magazine of all things. But it interested me because it was not just a list that was put together by the staff, kind of all putting together their votes, kind of like how most websites do it. They did it by basically polling, like reaching out to 200 significant people kind of in the game industry and gaming culture sphere, from big streamers to YouTube creators like Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit and like Chris Bratt from People Make Games, to a bunch of game journalists like Chris Plant and Luke Plunkett and Lee Alexander and Imran Khan, and then lots of game developers as well, like Rami Ismail and Tim Schafer, and like tons of industry people, like tons of people in games who have been in it for a while, like from all sides of it, and have a lot of experience and knowledge in it, and had basically all of them generate a top 10 list of the best games and send them in, and then use those like 200 plus top 10 lists from all those people to kind of compile basically and score basically like a top 100 games of all time from that. So that's obviously not a perfect scientific process, but then no top 100 game list is. So it was an interesting way to generate a list, though, so it seemed like a neat one to kind of go through. And yeah, like devs definitely are going to have a different perspective on games than just the fans and players. But I think it is good that they did also include like streamers and creators like in that list as well, because like it does round out the perspective a little bit. But as a result of that process, it has skewed toward games that are maybe like popular but not at like, maybe there are games that are better than them, and also it skews toward games with like broad appeal. Even so, and it's also definitely resulted in a list that has franchises which have too many entries, like taking up slots. We've had too many Final Fantasies and Zeldas and Marios in here already. But it's been an interesting list to like go through and talk about, though. 24, Minecraft. Yes, and also it should be higher. Like, there's zero question that Minecraft should be on a top 100 games of all time list. Like, this is maybe one of the most influential games ever made, and maybe one of the most important games ever made. And yeah, like this, like I would have zero problem with Minecraft being a top 10. But it should at the very least be here. The important thing is it's here. Let's see. BioShock. See, this is a BioShock I will accept on the list. Infinite should not have been on this list. This one's fine. Still maybe hot. Like, yeah, it's still too high. It shouldn't be this high up the list, but I'm fine with this being on the list. Yes, Infinite was on the list. I too am upset at this. Not that there aren't really cool and amazing things about Infinite. Like, there are world building and like art and art direction and stuff. Like, there is a lot of incredible work in Infinite, and there is still like in terms of building a world and a space to explore that is fascinating and that has been so thoroughly like thought through, and it has like such inventive, creative, like, I love a lot about the setting and the cool ideas and stuff that they explored, like with like sort of the weird, like anachronistic elements and like the musical elements in Infinite. Like, there's so much cool about Infinite that is really hard to see without, like, also it's really hard to ignore all the things that are not great about Infinite to focus on those things. Yeah, like BioShock being on this list, I'm not mad at. It is a little high though. And I think that this is the sort of result you get from polling a whole lot of people and then using their lists to generate like scores and create a list out of that. I don't think a room full of people like the staff of GQ, if they were assembling a list, I don't think most of them would probably put BioShock above Minecraft. But so it goes. Let's see now. 22, World of Warcraft. Yeah, that should be on the list. No question. You definitely shouldn't put Final Fantasy XIV on the list if World of Warcraft is not also here. If World of Warcraft wasn't here, then it would, I love Final Fantasy XIV, but WoW should take 14's spot in terms of, like, significance and importance. Because it's not even close in that department. Halo Combat Evolved. See, this also makes sense. Like, Halo 3 being on the list, that did not make sense. This makes sense. Still a little higher than I'd put it, but this makes sense. This is a Halo we can agree on. I don't even like Halo, but like this belongs here, and I know it. Elden Ring, yeah, like this belongs here too. No question. Like, where, I don't know where it belongs on the list, but it definitely belongs on the list. I don't think recency bias on this one. I think in 10 years, people are still going to look back and say, yeah, no, Elden Ring is a remarkable top 10, top 100 quality game up here, for sure. Like, I don't think there's a recency bias on the Elden Ring, on the Elden Ring in this case. There's nothing quite like this one. Doom being on the list is also correct. Like, goodness, if we're talking significance. This is correct. It is, if anything, obligatory. Super Mario 64. I'm good with this being on the list, but it's... Man, we've had a lot of Marios in here. I'm good with this being on the list. I don't think... No, I guess I already said it. Like, I don't think Galaxy should be on this list, though. 64 being here, I'm good with that. The original being here for historical significance, yeah, sure. Odyssey being here, I agree. I think it's probably one of the best 3D Mario games, period. We're getting pretty full of Marios here, though. There's a lot of good ones, which makes sense, but even so. Especially for coming out the gate so strong in making Mario work 3D and nailing kind of like 3D, like platforming, like exploration sort of stuff so well out the gate. Like this was influential and important entry. Let's see. Final Fantasy VII. There it is. Yeah. I was pretty sure that was going to be here. And yeah, of the Final Fantasies, I think significance-wise and quality-wise, this definitely deserves a spot. I think it makes more sense for 7 to be here than 6. Definitely makes more sense for it to be here than 10. And even though I like 9 better, it would make sense to me to include 7. If there was only one Final Fantasy to put here, I think that this is kind of the one that makes the most sense. Oh yeah, no, it's definitely an emulated screenshot. This is from the PC version of the game. The images they are using for this list are pretty comical. Let's see. Skyrim being on here? Yeah, no, I think an Elder Scrolls definitely belongs on this list, and of the available options, I think Morrowind and Skyrim are the two that make the most sense to be here. Not Oblivion, but Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim being on here, and Fallout 3, no, 2 of those definitely should not be here. But I think Skyrim makes a lot of sense to be here. It's maybe a little high, but it belongs here. Yeah, no question. This, I think, also belongs here. Maybe, I don't know if it's quite this high up, but Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, does actually belong on the list. That. It is impressive in a very, very wide range of ways. Super Mario World, again, we're dense on Marios, but though I do think that this is one that is a good contender for being here. I would put this here sooner than Mario 3. And definitely sooner than Mario Galaxy, but this is a very, very good Mario, but I don't know. Yeah. There's a lot of Marios in here. Let's see. Ocarina of Time, there you are. And I think there are better Zelda games than this, but boy, the influence this one's had, I think, is yeah, I think this deserves a spot. This is the lowest I've ever seen Ocarina of Time on a list like this. That honestly kind of makes me happy, because I think though Ocarina of Time is very good and it has been influential and beloved, I don't think it is one of the top 10 greatest games of all time. And I don't think so. While I do think it being here in the top 100 makes a lot of sense, I think this is more kind of the range where it belongs in. I get very skeptical of any list that puts Ocarina. There's a handful of games that often end up at the very top #1 spot of best games of all time list, and there's a I kind of squint a little bit at some of those choices, being this is very. I think there's a lot of nostalgia talking and putting this sort of thing as one of the best games of all time, though. But yeah, let's see. Disco Elysium, yes, yeah, no, that. I've not played this one myself, but I have heard enough about this one to be yeah, this belongs on the list somewhere for sure. It's pretty high, but it does belong on the list, I think. Probably not quite this high, but it is very for a narrative and RPG of this sort of kind, it is pretty incredible. Let's see. Resident Evil 4? Again, a little high, but yeah, I do think Resident Evil 4 belongs in the list, though. Like, goodness, the influence this one has had. Like, I feel like if a Resident Evil, you could probably make a case for several Resident Evils belonging in here. I wouldn't want to see a lot of Resident Evil games in the top 100, but one of them should be, and I think 4 is a pretty solid pick. Is this the only Resident Evil game? It's the only one we've seen so far, and I think it is the only one that's going to be on the list. Again, I could hear arguments for others. But yeah, let's see. All right, we're up to the top 10 now. So we're up to the top 10, and as Chad has been saying, like, we've already seen the kind of games that often end up in the top 10 of these things. We've already seen quite a few of them lower down the list, so this should be quite a thing. Let's see. Number 10, Half-Life 2. That, yes. Yeah, like, I don't know if it's a top 10, but Half-Life 2 being on the list is correct for sure. Yeah, like, Half-Life 2 belongs on the list. Important. Let's see. There's our Dark Souls. And yeah, like, I think Dark Souls definitely belongs on the list without question, and for just sheer influence and importance, like, the amount of influence this game has had in the last 13 years is bonkers. Like, I would probably put it, I'd have been fine with Dark Souls being in the top 20, maybe. Like, 9 might be like a little high, but I'm not mad at it. Like, this is so, like, it belongs on the list, no question, and being really high, I think, makes a great deal of sense. Let's see. Portal 2? Yeah, I think that tracks. Again, I don't know if, like, top 20 kind of feels maybe a little bit more right there, but Portal 2 is incredibly good. This is acceptable. Portal 2 is very, very good. You have no idea what the last 7 are. It is kind of hard to tell. Like, it's a really interesting list they put together. And I've agreed with a lot of it. Like, there's definitely lots of lots of entries that I am not here for, but it's not a bad list. Let's see here. 7, Metal Gear Solid. That's too high. I'm honestly not sure Metal Gear Solid Original should be in here at all. Like, a Metal Gear being in here makes sense, and I think 3 is a good pick. I don't know if I agree with Metal Gear Solid Original being definitely not in the top 10. If on the list at all. I would accept, like, in the kind of like bottom 30, maybe. There have definitely been some entries in here that I'd happily dropped that I would be okay with Metal Gear Solid staying in its place, but this is too high for sure. It is, like, an important one, but yeah, like, I still don't feel like this belongs quite at this height. 6, Mass Effect 2. Again, not this high. This is the sort of thing that top lists by public poll or like polling a large group fall prey to. Just the broadest appeal, most popular kind of wins out. And, like, this is too high. Mass Effect 2 is not a top 10 game of all time. I love it. It's not, though. Like, I'd put it on the list for sure, but in the bottom 50. Where's Hollow Knight? Oh, Hollow Knight was there. It had a picture, a screenshot from Silksong in it, but Hollow Knight was there. All right. Number 5. I'm down with this. Like, 5's maybe a little high, but The Witcher 3 definitely belongs in the list without question. Like, The Witcher 3 is pretty incredible and definitely a top 100 game. 5 is high, but it belongs on the list. Probably like in the top 30, I feel like, at least. I'd put it lower too, but it's good that it's here. All right, number 4. Again, a little high, but I like Bloodborne being on the list. And I'm not mad at it being above Dark Souls either. I wouldn't put it at 4, but I'm okay with Bloodborne actually being pretty high up. Like, I can even see, I can accept Bloodborne being a top 10. It's probably not where I would put it, but I can get that. Well, let's see. Number 3. Okay, yeah, like, I don't know if we need Tetris and Tetris Effect on this list, but, I mean, Tetris is pretty important. And also, like, if there is a game that is perfect, and there probably isn't, but if there is one, Tetris might be it. Like, I think I can't be mad about Tetris being on here or in the top 10. Like, that's... We don't have to like it for it to be true. Number 2. Disagree. I'm down with Last of Us being on the list, but not here. I'm sorry. No. Look, The Last of Us is great. It is a fantastic game. And it is absolutely top 100 games material. It's not number 2, though. I'm sorry, it's not. Not that, like, of all time, though. Come now. But like, I can absolutely, like, it makes total sense that The Last of Us would show up on a lot of, like, gaming culture figures top 10 lists, though, right? And so, like, I could see The Last of Us being somewhere, maybe not near the top, but somewhere on a lot of people's lists, enough of them that it ends up in number 2, right? And I think a lot of people are already kind of calling it, but yeah, at number 1, we have Breath of the Wild, and I'm also not mad about that. I feel like, again, if this list came out later in 2023, I could see Tears of the Kingdom kind of swapping in for this. And I don't know if I necessarily put it at number 1, but boy, it is, like, I think Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom are definitely top 10 contenders that make, like I'm down with that. Breath of the Wild not in the top 20 is, I think, Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom not being in the top 20 would be a mistake, I think. 1, I'm uneasy with it being at number 1, but I am, like, it is great and has really had, like, has also just already been influential. Because, yeah, like, someone in chat said it, but I think Elden Ring owes some inspiration to this. Like, Elden Ring learned some from this. And I think Tears of the Kingdom is just straight up better than Breath of the Wild. But again, this list came out in mid last year. Tears of the Kingdom is still quite new and probably came out while they were, like, assembling, already working on this. So like, I am not surprised it's not here. What would I put as number one is a good question. It's a very good question. I honestly don't know. Like that's kind of part of what, like, I would struggle. I'd be paralyzed with indecision trying to put together a top 100 list. But there are definitely too many redundant entries from various different franchises in this one, though, because like there are some notable absences on here. Like they're not being like Katamari Damacy belongs on this list. Like it's like no question. There not being a Monster Hunter is wild. I could see I could see arguments for a Devil May Cry. Celeste not being on here is bonkers. Yeah. I know you do, Sonic, but a Sonic game not being on here is also, I think, correct. Like, I am somewhat biased. I admit I don't know if even the best Sonic games are top 100 video games of all time material. Celeste should be on here. Were there any strategy games? Civilization 5 was on here, although it does feel like there maybe could have been another grand strategy in here. Some Age of Empires 2 was as well. Persona 5 was in here, so yeah, there was a Persona game in. And one Persona game being in there makes sense. It does feel like a StarCraft should have been in there, maybe. Baldur's Gate 3 was not on the list, but that's because I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 was out when this list came out. This came out middle of 2023. So I think if it came out if this list was being assembled this year, I think Baldur's Gate 3 would unquestionably be here. Probably Balatro as well. Like, there's a lot of very good games that I think it could make a very good argument for being on here. And Animal Crossing not being in here is also wild. Was Metroid represented at all? Yeah, we got Super Metroid and Metroid Prime, which is, I think, kind of covering the gamut. That if you're going to put two Metroids in, that feels like a good pick. No, there wasn't a Professor Layton. Trying to think of what are the other, like, really importance. There wasn't a Mega Man, but I'm not sure. I don't think any of the Mega Man games, much as I like Mega Man, I don't think any of them are top 100 of all time material. No Crusader Kings. There was The Secret of Monkey Island was here. Trying to think, like, what are some other notable absences? Like, there's lots of ones that are favorites of mine that I am perfectly fine not being here. Like, I love Banjo-Kazooie. I'm fine with it not being in a top 100 of all time, though. Like, I don't know if I would be able to make a powerful, like, a rock-solid argument for Banjo-Kazooie being one of the 100 best video games of all time. It's one of my 100 favorites, for sure, but I don't know if it belongs in the top 100. Like, Baba Is You should be on here. What else? Slay the Spire being on here actually would make a lot of sense, too. Kind of feels like Slay the Spire should be. And I imagine lots of the people who contributed to this list fully agree with all of us. Was FTL on here? It was not. I could see an argument for FTL being in a top 100. Like a Smash Brothers not being here too is also very strange. Tunic would have been a very Tunic would have been a very good pick too. Goodness. There's not a Diablo. I'm kind of okay with there not being a Diablo on here. Like I love me some Diablo games, but I don't know if any of them are really like something I would describe as one of the greatest games of all time. Yeah, there wasn't a Borderlands on here, and that also I think feels correct. Like I've loved me some Borderlands, but I don't know if any of them are best of all time material. Would I play Sanabi? I don't think so. That's one that I love, but that I don't think is. I don't think I could make a compelling case for it being one of the 100 best games of all time. What else? Kind of scanning through some of my little like favorites lists here. Vampire Survivors would have been an interesting addition. I could see, like... I could go either way on that one. Oh yeah, Minecraft was on there. It should have been higher on the list, but Minecraft was there, thank goodness, because like if Minecraft wasn't on the list, then like, goodness, what are we doing? Trying to go back and see, like, there's tons of games that I would not have been mad if they ended up on the list, but that I would also, like, I think it's fine that they aren't. Like, I love Psychonauts, but I'm fine not saying that it's one of the best games of all time. This is one of my favorites. Like, there's lots of them that are, like, that I love, that I would be happy to see on the list, but then there are other ones that just feel like weird, like, Katamari and Celeste not being somewhere in here, or Baba Is You not being somewhere in here that's pretty wacky. I can see an argument for like an Untitled Goose Game being in here. If a Kingdom Hearts was to be here, I would think 2 is the one for sure. Like I accept a Kingdom Hearts not being on the list, but if 1 was, then it should be 2. League of Legends should be on here as well. Like I don't enjoy playing MOBAs much myself, but goodness, yeah, one of them should be. And yeah, TF2 being on here, I could also see a very good argument for. Either League of Legends should be on here. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, I don't think I'd put... No, I don't think I'd put... Even Final Fantasy Tactics, I don't think I'd put... Like, Tactics is very good, but I don't even think I'd put it quite at that level. I don't know if I'd put any of the Tomb Raiders on either. Like, there have been a lot of good Tomb Raider games. I don't know... Like, there's lots of franchises that are really good and have some great entries, but that I don't know if they ultimately, like, have the significance or impact or just level of, like, sheer incredible quality that they, like, belong, necessarily have to have an entry in the top 100. That's kind of how I feel about, like, Mega Man. I don't feel like... There's lots of really good Mega Man games that I like a lot, but I don't think any of them are, like, so exquisitely made or perfect that they, like, belong in the top 100. Or, like, I'm fine with, like, there not being any Crash Bandicoot games or Ratchet and Clank games on here, even though there's some, like, very good entries in both of those franchises. Smash Brothers Melee feels like it should be here. That's not even my favorite Smash, but like, goodness, Melee is like, a Smash should be here. That's a good argument too, actually, heuristic. Like, given Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't out yet, like, Baldur's Gate 3 would be on this list if they'd made it later. But in its absence, Divinity 2 would have been a very fine substitute. And yes, Street Fighter 2 being the only fighting game. It really, like, it's it's an imperfect list, as all of these are, but I don't know, it's fun to talk about and think about that sort of thing. So I appreciate you all entertaining this little experience with me, or putting up with it, joining me for it, I guess. Whatever. It's been fun. We should switch over to some Pokemon now, though, because I did promise that on Tuesday, and we do still have some to like do. Yeah, it's fun talking about games, and these sorts of lists. Really, the only thing that these lists are good for is for like launching discussions like this, and they're fun discussions to have. It really does. It makes me want to do a tier list stream again sometime. I don't know what of. Were there any mobile games on the list? I don't think there were. I'm trying to think if there's like a mobile game that I would rank in a top 100. Because I think that you could make some arguments for some. It does feel like Among Us could have, like, I think that you could make a good argument for Among Us being on this list somewhere. It is actually hard. Like, Pokemon Go is it's like a significant moment, but I don't know, like, there's games that have like big moments and significance, but that like I don't know if I'd rate them as like actually good enough games to merit being in a top 100 of all time. Like, historical significance can only go so far, and it's hard to. I don't know if I'd put like Pokemon Go as one of the best games ever made. It's hard to judge, though. Animal Crossing should be here, though. Absolutely. I would happily lose one of the 6 or 7 Mario games for an Animal Crossing somewhere in there. I don't think that mobile games need to be treated separately necessarily. Like, I don't think they, like, I'm sure you could actually probably make a very interesting list out of that sort of thing. Hey, Grizzhoot and friends, welcome. Welcome, welcome. We've just finished discussing, well, here, you see before you now, the greatest video game of all time. We solved it. Well, Wii Sports would be an interesting call. Actually, I would never have thought of Wii Sports, but I don't know if I would put it, but like, it's an interesting proposal. That's an interesting thought. I think you could make an argument for it. I don't know if I would fully agree that it should make it on the list, but I think you could make a case. Yeah, there weren't really any sports game on here either, and that feels like that does feel like there's an absence there, a little bit. I don't know what sports game I would add, but there's fun stuff to ramble about. I know the kind of sports games I would put on this sort of list, but I don't know if they're really the best ones. They're certainly the one, like, I definitely gravitate toward the SSXs and the NBA Streets and the sorts of things that are like they take a sport as a starting point. Were there any of the big Ubisofts in here, like Assassin's Creed? No, there weren't, and I'm actually kind of okay with that. Like, some of them are quite good, but I don't know if they're top 100 good. In the same way as I feel like some of the stuff that got in here, like Fallout 3 or there were a handful of other sort of like bigger entries. Like, there are probably like one too many BioWare RPGs. There are a few that I would definitely cut. New Vegas was on here. It was below Fallout 3, which I know stings for a lot of people, and I also agree, but it was on here at least, and that's the important thing. Yeah, like, if an Assassin's Creed made it, I'd have been okay with an Assassin's Creed 2, I guess. But I feel like there are better open world games. Like, the Grand Theft Autos are more important, and the more recent and stuff like Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring are better designed, I think. There was a Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare, which is, I think, if you're going to put a Call of Duty in here, that's the one. And they did have Outer Wilds and Portal 2. So yeah, like, that's good. They also had Return of the Obra Dinn, lower than it should have been, but it was here. I feel like top 100 games of all time should be based on historical or cultural significance, and best 100 games should be pure popularity. That's the thing. Like, I don't think a popularity contest gets you actually very good results either. Because, like, there are lots of games that are very popular that are, like, good, but, like, best of all time, though? I think if we saw a list that was generated purely on, like, these are the 100 best, like, most popular games, like, voted on as the most popular ones, like, you'd see a lot of games that are like, yeah, like, that's good, but it's kind of like what makes it all sort of a little bit like impossible. Like, the metric for best is a pretty broad definition. I remember someone had made a thing. I don't even remember where it was. It was like 15 years ago at least at this point. Someone had made like some little website that had like this enormous like database of games. And it was made for you to basically like try to organize your list of here are your favorite games. And the way it did it was by like basically showing you a endless succession of choices of like from the huge database of like, okay, which do you like better? This random game from the list or this random game from the list? And then you clicked that one. And then it was like, okay, now this random game from the list or this random game from the list. And you just do that hundreds to thousands of times. And eventually, after making enough of those choices, you would like start seeing how your list came together of like which ones were like you were rating as above other ones more often than not. And eventually, like, that would be the list you do it. Computer going to sleep. Stop it. Wake up. I can't even remember what the thing was. Like, I don't know if that site exists anymore or like it was a good idea. It was fun to do because it also like it surprised you eventually. I like sort of like, oh, I guess this is kind of like my favorite. These are my favorite games because I'm like, they're not the ones I necessarily would have thought of at the time, but I have been rating them above all these other ones. And sometimes, like, a lot of the choices would be super easy. Like, you get served up some game that you love and then just some other game that, like, you'd never heard of. Like, most of them would be that way. But every now and then, you get handed a choice that was like, oh, how do I even choose that? You just sit there staring at the screen for 5 or 10 minutes. It's like, what? How? This is impossible. How do you even begin to quantify which of these I think is better? Right? Like, you get handed something like Half-Life 2 or Shadow of the Colossus, and you're like, man, okay. Hades or Hollow Knight. Outer Wilds or Hollow Knight. Eventually, you'll just get thrown some that are sort of like, I have to think about this for a while. But yeah, it was also like, it was a list of hundreds and hundreds to thousands of games it would take, and it wasn't even a complete list. It would take you forever to do, but I don't know. It was fun to do. You're just like bored in a, like, if you're just bored in a dorm room. It's fun to think about, though. Well, let's start shifting over toward Pokemon time. I'll go to BRB, run an ad or two, run to the washroom. If anyone needs to get a snack or anything, now is the perfect time. And about like 5-ish or so minutes, we will resume our Pokemon Emerald. Thank you for... I can't think of the word. It's not entertaining. Thank you for indulging. That's the one. Thank you for indulging me on this. Okay, so like, I'm getting set up here, but in the break, out of curiosity, I did go looking for, all right, this Metacritic best games of all time list, which is just sort of like generated live basically just by ranking in order of sort of like the overall meta score. I'm definitely a bigger fan of that GQ list than what I'm seeing here. And for like, here, let me give you the top 20, and y'all, y'all can tell me if I'm, y'all can tell me if I'm in the wrong here. All right, so number 20, Resident Evil 4, and that's fine. Actually, that's maybe a better place for Resident Evil 4 to be than we saw on the other list. Level 19, Uncharted 2, which Uncharted 2 being on the list, good. That's a little high though. Number 18, GoldenEye. That's definitely too high for GoldenEye. 17, BioShock. It's a little high for BioShock as well. 16, Half-Life 2. Okay, yes, good. That's maybe a little high, but still fine, still fine. 15, NFL 2K1, which, I mean, hey, we didn't have a sports game on the other one, so who's to say? 14, Halo. Too high, but all right, sure. 13, Super Mario Odyssey. Okay, too high, but on the list, yes, for sure. 12, Grand Theft Auto 3. Too high, but yes. 11, Metroid Prime. Too high, but okay. 10, Grand Theft Auto 5. Definitely too high. They're all going to be too high at this point. Just get used to that, but sure. 9, Red Dead Redemption 2. 8, Perfect Dark. There's a weird choice. 7, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. 6, Breath of the Wild. All right, we're top 5 now though. So like, listen, so we could have been a lot madder over the last couple of hours. So like, it's good for us to all, like, in retrospect, I'm happy with how we spent with the list we've been spending our time with. So top 5 now. So brace yourselves. Number 5, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Number 4, Super Mario Galaxy 1. Number 3, Grand Theft Auto 4. Number 2, and this, like, I guarantee you do not know what number 2 is. You will never in a million years guess what number 2 is. Number 2, Soul Calibur. I love Soul Calibur. What is it doing here? And number 1, surprising no one, Ocarina of Time, which is the usual pick. And again, this is just generated based on the Metascore. So whatever the game's Metascore is on Metacritic. And so everything up here is just stuff that's all kind of living in the 97 to 99 range. But this is why I think going by most popular, and I guess this isn't rated by most popular. This is by Metacritic score, which is also, as we can see here, a bit of a flawed metric because, like Rotten Tomatoes, a high Metacritic score is not a ranking of quality, is a ranking of broad appeal. But congratulations to Soul Calibur for being the second greatest game of all time. So what a big win. It's rarefied air. That was really funny. Like, it's a very good game. Metascore does have a user score, and that oh boy. All right, so here I can rank this by, I was looking at by Metascore, but I can look at user score too. What it's showing me is definitely not ranked by user score. Metacritic, what are you doing? Metacritic. All right, we're going to do a top 10 again. I don't even know if you'll feel mad about this. I think you'll just be confused. I know that's where I'm at. So, number 10, if we're going by user score, is Sekiro, which, all right, interesting. Too high, but interesting. Number 9, Astro's Playroom. Huh. I mean, it's good. Number 8, Baldi's Basics. Classic Remastered. I don't know. Number 7, Crystar. Don't ask me, I don't know what it is. Number 6, Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, which, listen, I do love it too. I'm not... I also like it, but come now. Number 5, Half-Life Alyx. Interesting. All right, I mean, it is very good. Number 4, now we're getting we're having a good time now. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection Volume 2. We're having a good old time now. Number 3, best game of all time. Your Turn to Die, Death Game by Majority. Second greatest game of all time, according to user score on Metacritic, Systematic Insanity. And number 1, best game of all time, according to user scores anyway, on Metacritic, is Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection Volume 1. Mistakes were made. Listen, the people have spoken, okay? Battle Network sweep. The people and a non-zero number of bots have spoken. The bots would pick Mega Man, though, wouldn't they? That just makes sense. Biased. I'm really glad I looked that up. Like, yeah, exactly. Like what I say, like, yeah, you're not going to be mad. You're going to be just confused. That was a good time. Definitely not what I expected when I went looking.